Happy Saturday. Hope y'all's weekend is off to a great start. Since it is Saturday, once again, that means it is time to let it rip. Guys, we have a special episode for y'all today. I am super excited to get into it. But before we get there, a couple of things right off the top. Guys, along the way, we're going to be talking about things. We're going to be stirring the pot. We're going to be poking the bear. So, what we want from you guys is to join in the conversation. Navigate your way to the comment section of wherever you are watching. Drop a hi. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Ask any questions along the way. You guys know how it is. This show does its best when you guys engage. That way, we know exactly where to hit the gas, pump the brakes, the whole 9 yards. Guys, that's enough out of me for right now. I turn you over to the host with the most, Pastor TC. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? If you notice, we have a new face on the screen. Well, he's not really new to us, but it might be new to you. And you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Yes, sir. My name is Willie G. Berry. I'm just happy to be here with my fellas on Kingdom on the Road, and God bless you to whoever's tuning in and chiming in.
Amen. So we have our boy Willie G. Berry, rapper, artist, brother, friend, deacon. The Lord has just done a lot in your life, man. Does done amazing work. Is still doing amazing work. Um, so yeah, we have a guest. I'm excited about that because today we are talking about music, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, let me get myself together. We're talking about music, ladies and gentlemen. Feeling lazy, but not going to be lazy. But we're talking about music, and we're talking not just about music. We're gonna give you a couple of things that we mean by this. Is we're talking about how our life have changed because of music, the changes we've seen in the gospel industry, because we gotta be controversial. And is it the same as it used to be? Is that even a thing? They even really change? What has changed with it? Is it the same as secular music now? It just sounds, we're just using the name Jesus just with less power. I don't know. We're going to talk about all those things probably, but that's why we have G Barry on here to talk about music today. So to kind of get this thing going, I figure I'll be nice and start off with something calm and collective, maybe. Let's go ahead and talk about our relationship with music. And this is what I mean by relationship with music. What role does music play in your life when you were younger to right now? And so I'll go ahead. Whoever wants to jump in there, let's go ahead and let it rip. Oh, chat. Let me make it clear. That's for you too, chat. Gotta wake it up. Get some Folgers. Do some calisthenics. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Time to wake up, chat, because we need to hear from you the most, because it's gonna be interesting based off the chat. I have a feeling. But yes, go ahead. Proceed.
I'll be brave and get it started. Me being the old head
That's
on the
crazy.
panel.
Oh,
Um,
that is crazy.
when I think about music, music has always been kind of the soundtrack to my life. There is different music for different stages of my life, and so it's like a movie, like different scenes of your life. There was different styles of music for those scenes, and that's kind of how music has been in my life. Early on, when I was young, it was you know um, a lot of R&B. Grew up with in the era of the New Edition and um, groups like the Gap Band and man, my era, BBD, Boys to Men, and being in Philadelphia when all that happened, even Boys to Men style with the suit jackets and the shorts, the preppy boy stuff, you even tried to wear that stuff, trying to be, cool or whatever, and so at those stages, you kind of listen to those things, and then as a teenager, got into more rap for some reason. It's transitioned from the Boys to Men, New Edition, you know, Babyface, and all those guys to listening to rap. KRS One. Um, uh, who else? Man, Slick Rick.
Rockin'.
I don't know if y'all know about Slick
A
Rick and
little bit
Oh
Rakim.
slick.
yeah.
A little bit
Oh
slick.
yeah. Oh,
So at that stage, I was listening to that. Even being from Philly, Will Smith and Fresh Prince, they lived just down the street from me in Winfield. And so when they would come down the hill in the gold Mercedes, you're like, oh wow, and so, that was, part of your life. And then as I grew, kind of got into some different stuff, even when I changed locations, my music changed. So I didn't get introduced to West Coast music till I came to Colorado. And then all
mm,
of a sudden I'm I'm hearing this West Coast rap. I heard now let me qualify that because there were certain groups that were known, everywhere, like NWA.
Mm.
We knew NWA in Philly, you know, but there was the others, the DJ Quicks and those
man.
people. I didn't hear them until I came to Colorado, and I was like, "What is it? What is this stuff?" And so, you kind of got embraced in that, and then the seasons change, and I learned new R&B artists throughout that, and then growing up, again, the music changes, and so for every stage and scene, there was a different set of music for my life, and then as a Christian, my music changed again, you know,
Mhm.
because of a different, different way of living. So my music changed again. But music in itself has always been a part of my life. There's always been a love for music, classic music, and all different, and even different genres. You catch me bobbing my head to some different stuff. Like, what? What are you doing? Like, it's music, So they say music makes the world go round. So that's I'll just leave it
Yeah, yeah. So I'll go ahead and jump in there afterwards. So for me, man, not only being an artist, but somebody who is a fan of music, I would consider myself a connoisseur. I love music. I think about music all the time, and music is like my way of expressing myself, right? I was thinking as Apostle was talking, I was thinking about my earliest memory with music. And at the time, I'm living in Salinas, California. I'm living with my parents, and we're living on a spot called Clay Street.
Mm.
And one of my favorite movies in my top five is Five Heartbeats. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And we're watching this movie, and there's a particular part where there's a person that's playing on the keyboards, and his name is Church Boy, right? So he was playing on the keyboard. And I remember as a little kid, I went into the room and I saw this scene probably already 10 times as a kid. I ran into the parents' room, I changed and I put on a two-piece suit. And then the minute that Church Boy comes out, I run and I slide across the wooden floors. And they're like, what the heck? And I said, go to church, go to church. So, that was my earliest memory as a little kid, was watching Five Heartbeats and just the music and the way everything was choreographed. It's a great way of communicating and breaking down cultural, social, and communicative barriers, man. That right there is the biggest thing that really stood out to me personally as music. So, in the similar lines of a soundtrack, as a little kid in elementary school, what happened with me is, again, growing up in California in a city called Salinas, there was a station called 105.1 The Ocean. And my parents would always pick me up and drop me off, and they'll play the radio station. And I remember listening to it, and I loved it was really heavily bass influenced. Of course, West Coast, man, it's real vibey. It's real expressive when it comes to cultivating and really getting you moving. So I'm listening to this. I'm like, Mom, who's this? She's like, baby, that's Marvin Gaye. That's Luther Vandross. That's Temptations. These are the groups that I started off with as a kid. Matter of fact, it was about the early 2000s. I was listening to Marvin Gaye, heard it through the grapevine as a little kid, and then I got my cousin around the corner. He's listening to Ludacris. That's a down south artist, right? So it started that in elementary. In middle school, that's when it transitioned to West Coast. Like, I mean, hardcore West Coast. I'm talking Tupac. I'm talking Midwest Bone Thugs and Harmony. I'm talking Biggie, and I started really getting expounding and really studying because it captivated my heart. as a little kid, knowing that, wait a minute, I'm the quiet kid, but I could use this as a voice to express how I feel. Wow. Um, but yeah, man, lastly, to where I'm at now, I can go back to certain parts of the music that I used to listen to, and I could pull from the different instruments, the different cadences, the different flows. Not all the music, because now that I'm born again, there's certain ones guys like, you better cut that off, son, and quit playing. So yeah, it's been a beautiful journey, and I'm definitely excited for what God's doing in my life and with my family collectively. Concerning music is who I am. It's the way I express myself.
So I think I'd call myself a mixed bag between the two gentlemen that spoke first. Being it's I think that's the first time I've heard somebody else put it as soundtrack. It's a soundtrack to your life and moments and things like that. I don't think I have the same kind of clear lines because I've had certain music that I've listened to all throughout the way and yada yada yada, and it's changed so much. But I music has always been a part of my life. Like G Berry, I too am a musician, and it's something that was understanding the power of music was happened at a very very young age. I'm not sure I have memories pre just really being taken in by music. And I could still to this day tell you the first song that ever got stuck in my head. It's Boston's More Than a Feeling. That breakdown mid song is still, I still to this day say Boston Self-Titled is the single best cover to cover album to date. But yeah, so I grew up on stuff like that. I grew up on 60s, 70s, 80s rock. That was a big part of my and then I became a metalhead in high school, and in my 20s I found blues, and I just have been it's been a love affair ever since. But I think for me, like G Berry said, I was it might be hard for some of you guys to envision this, but I was real shy and real timid before I found my voice and before I found my confidence. I was super quiet growing up, and music was the way that I was able to take what I was feeling and take what I was experiencing and be able to transpose it and outlet it and be able to express myself. And that's, I think, still to this day why I like the word you used, G Berry, connoisseur. I'm a connoisseur of music. There is one thesis statement that must remain true for me to really appreciate music. It's got to make me feel something. I dare you to make me feel something. Yeah. And that, to me, I'll get it. I'm sure as the conversation continues on this morning, we'll get into that difference between pre-Christian and post-Christian life, because like you, Ant, with previous topics, I look at this one and I'm like, I'm going to be the odd man out in this conversation 100%. But still enduring regardless is this desire of like that connection that I've only ever experienced in two arenas in my life. This prevailing thing that when it's good, it can bring people together, and that's good music and good food. G Berry, you know what I'm talking about. Yes. You make somebody a good meal and relationships are started, memories are made, wars are ended over a good meal. Right. I really believe the same thing is true with good music.
That's right. 100%.
Man, that's good. Okay, well, guess I'll be last on this one, which I was just soaking in what everyone's saying, because I think I'm a mixture definitely of all three, even you, Joe. Matter of fact, piggyback on Joe. The fondest memory I have is being probably second grade age. So I don't know what age that is. I'm about to date myself when I say these sequence of words coming up. Um, Cassette tapes. So
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
uh, my mom had
Yeah.
a pair of set tapes in her blue Bonneville car, and she would play these tapes. Now, mind you, second grade, third grade were really quite hard times in my life because my parents were going through a lot of stuff. They always went through stuff, but this was the biggest thing because we ended up moving states. So we moved to Portland, Oregon. And I think what really was like, I love music. Cause I feel like when you're a kid, you're in a weird spot. I just think you're soaking up everything, period. You know, knew I like gaming when I was a kid, like to play games, so I already had Sega Genesis and I already had Super Nintendo. But music was just music. It was always just there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, and so I remember we're going to the coast in Portland, Oregon, and my mom played one of the fondest memory that I have with her, and one of my favorite songs. I don't care if it's been played out because that's a special place. I remember her playing "Candy Colored Raindrops." And
Ah.
let me tell you something. I even know who the heck Soul for Real was.
Mm.
Okay. I was like, hey, play this, mom, can you play a song that's talking about the candy colored raindrops? What is that? And she's like, oh, he liked that. So she played it. And so that's my introduction tapes. Let's talk about 8 tracks. Oh my lord.
So
You
so
you take that back.
interesting story, Mr. Lewis Blackshear. We went to high school together, and we used to do a lot of singing, together. And so just seeing his name brings back some real music memories. This is the guy. There's a group called Troop, and Lewis he could do the lead singer from Troop, but what he really could do was Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah.
He
Wow.
could do Mike like nobody else. So shout out to Lewis.
Shout
Good
out,
to see you,
man.
man.
Good to
Ah,
see you,
you,
brother.
brother.
Yeah, the
Okay.
8 tracks. So needless to say, that was my that's why I was like, I think I like music enough to want to consume it. So high school, or actually middle school, I would go in my mom's car and take my mom's tapes and go in the room. I mean, I'm raised up on Mary J. Blige. I was a '90s kid. The more I think about this was a hard one because I was like, was I raised more on '90s or '80s? And the truth of the matter was, I was raised on a lot of '90s music.
Mm.
Now, when I got into high school, I started listening to a lot of stuff from the '80s. This is where my mom introduced me to Patti LaBelle, and
Mm.
I fell in
Wow.
love with Patti LaBelle. I had like one of her greatest hit CDs because she has a
Mm.
couple of them. I just noticed the one where she's in the black, I think kind of like a gownish thing or dress, and it has like all of her hits, and I tore that CD up. Um, my friend, a friend, he was into Jill Scott, so I Neil Soul. I was like Jill Scott before I even got into Jill Scott. My mom got me to Erica Badu, so my mom was a connoisseur in music. And so I benefited off of my mom's relationship with music, and it echoed to me. Because I always ask, like, who is that? Because we're always driving, doing deliveries and delivering food. And so I spent a lot of time with my mom because I would help her out with food. And so we were always listening to music. So I mean, Erica Badu, Angela Wimbush, Stephanie Mills,
Mm.
um, Five Heartbeats is in there, Gap Band.
Ooh.
I remember first time listening to Gap Man, I think I was clowning because I was like, this dude's talking about burning rubber. What's going on here? And the next thing you know, I'm jamming in the back, Uncle Charlie, getting Charlie with, so I expanded. And so when I started to have my own relationship is when I got in high school because I was so awkward and I was trying to figure out a way to express what I was feeling. And so I was not a big diary person. I've never been actually this year I'm starting to write more. My
Mm.
Dr. Phil's even still is still more of me, really just writing notes from my experience with scripture, and then they turn into sermons and stuff like that or YouTube ideas. But music has always been like this diary, this audio diary to express what's going on in the day.
Yeah.
And so, needless to say, I started getting into my rap. Like, I love me some Missy Elliott. So, she was more of an
Yeah.
MC, truthfully, but I love me some Pac, I love me some Biggie. My mom was playing those guys, she
Wow.
was, playing some. No, I didn't know a lot of them because I was more into R&B and, for sure, more of kind of light hip hop in the sense, and so those things were what I used to listen to throughout you cannot find me without a Walkman. Oh my god, bro. I felt so
Wow.
you
Walkman.
couldn't find me.
You just dated yourself. So you just let that slide right out of your mouth. And the best part
Yeah.
is all three of us yeah, we know exactly what you're
Right,
talking about.
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
don't even know what a Walkman is, bro. But you never saw me without a Walkman and some headphones, man. And
Man,
I had this big old case of CDs I would put in my backpack.
Yo.
And I am
Yeah.
like, you had to
Yeah.
have CDs. You had your
Yep.
case of CDs. Case of CDs was like, that's life or death. You fight. So
Yeah.
I remember I got my stuff stolen, and the first thing I asked for was buy my CDs, and they got me good, But then I had like a whole other stack at the crib, So,
at
but
least you
the case,
at least you didn't have a boombox on your shoulder like me.
bro,
Yo.
I wanted to do that because that your era wasn't too far from mine. So I love that. That was dope.
Right.
It's kind of interesting that they're trying to bring that back in a weird way with these little pills and pods, right?
Yes, they
But
are.
you know what I mean? But that was dope. Anyway, so to wrap this up, and I'm gonna transition to this because this is how we're gonna transition this conversation. I got introduced to gospel music at the age of 14. That's when I received the Lord Savior into my life. Was when I was 14. No one's telling me that my music had to change. This is the crazy part, and I know some of you might have different experiences. Even online, I'm pretty sure you might have different experience about people telling you your music got to change. Well, that wasn't my thing. Me and my mom got saved at around the same year, and we were still bumping when we were bumping. However, I will say music is what got me saved. So, and if you're watching this, she might be Mika in here. I call her Miss Shamika. She's one of my mentors, and some of you guys might know her here in Colorado because she's an incredible singer. Oh man, that woman can sing, but she's been singing since like I've been young. That woman's been singing a long time. Anyway, my mom was bringing me to church. And if you don't know my testimony, I'm just gonna give you a quick snippet of how I got saved. Mom decided she wanted to get her life right around her 40s. I'm in middle school or late middle school because I'm 8th grade. Decided she wanted to get her life right. I'm not having it. I don't want to go to church. Never been to church. Why are we starting to go now? But it was heavy on her heart to have her family go to church, and especially her son. And her son was already socially awkward in school, so he didn't want to do no youth group. So she made me go. I said, I hate church. Always never liked church. It's always been boring. People were weird. Why are you making me do this? My Saturdays are dedicated to my gaming. You do not rob Saturday, Sunday for anything. This is my day. I gotta go back to school on Monday, and you trying to rob me of one day. Come on, bro. And so, needs to say, me and mom had conflict. Conflict echoed to dad. Dad, at the time, wasn't he was really not playing religion like that, and so he didn't like religion being pushed. Got to a mom. I felt bad. Blah blah. If you take me to church, listen, I ain't doing no youth group. So don't be trying to make me go downstairs. Because why do they always put the kids downstairs? Somebody tell me, why is that the place to put kids when you I try listen, if you're a church, you do you. But anyway, I didn't like the idea. And I definitely didn't like kids my age. And so that was the deal. I said, look, if I go with you, you got me feeling all bad that you got into with daddy. You gonna have me staying upstairs because I do like the music. I do like the way those old folks be singing up there. And so Miss Shamika could sing the roof down. I'll never forget. She sung a couple of songs that just really ministered to me as a kid. I didn't always be a minister to, okay? Because for me, I'm just like, this is a good song. It's like you can sing. I just like singing. But she sung Silver and Gold in the way I think I ever heard no one sing Silver and Gold. Okay, I'm serious. Just the way she sung this song, and it just pulled my heartstrings. And I said, who are they singing about? And my mom was like, they singing about God, baby.
Mm.
Well, I wanna know God.
Mm.
Because if she's singing it like that, I want to know who he is. And so I went my pursuit, and I ended up becoming a Christian. So bringing it back, I decided I wanted to add to my music because I didn't cut nothing off when I became a Christian. Let me make that clear. I didn't cut nothing off, but I wanted to add to my repertoire of music. And so here comes gospel music. And I think my first introduction to gospel music, believe it or not, what's up, Leos? How you doing? We're talking about music. What's your relationship with music? Go ahead, let me know in the chat. So we're talking, and I got introduced to well, a lot of different choirs because I was in the choir. I was in air conditioning. If I'm going to be at the church, got to be in the choir because I want to sing now too. So I got introduced a lot, but I think some ones that really, 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 really stuck with me was Vicky Winans. Like Vicky Winans, I don't talk about her a lot, but Vicky Winans, man, I was like, who is this? Because I had a guy who decided because he was like, this dude likes music. He brought me a whole case of gospel music. And I don't know. Truthfully, I don't know what the motive was. I'm to me, it felt like a pure motive. He just brought me a case of CDs. I like music, and in the choir, I had this dude rip me in their CD, and so I got. So this is the crazy part. So I told you about Stephanie Mills, right? So Stephanie Mills had a gospel album, and I love Stephanie Mills gospel music. I was like, I gotta have this album. I think I ripped that thing. I didn't have the whole album. I think I had like parts of the album, and I just played that thing, and I was like, "So this is the thing Christians have. They have music, and so I went on the pursuit again. Next thing you know, I'm the only weirdo in school that has a CC Wine CD when it first dropped, a Vicky Wine CD when it first dropped. I went back get some vintage Vicky because she was doing music 60s to 80s, truthfully, and so I had all that, and so I started listening to gospel music because for me, music was a diary. So now I'm a Christian. And the only thing I think about in school is God. That was just me when I was a high schooler. I'm thinking about God and my teacher. I'm thinking about God and love. So music was my literal audible Bible. Gospel music was. It was my diary. And so with that being said, let's talk about gospel music. I know it's a long about way. I'm gonna read this real quick, and then, like I said, I want us to kind of take off about this. I'm about music in all genres. Music is my motivation in a lot of things, but it brings me closer and closer to God during this hard time. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like I told you guys, you heard me say time and time again. I know how to read a Bible when I was in high school. I didn't like reading, period. So to read a Bible was just not appealing to me. I'm just saying. I'm just being really honest with you. It was just not appealing to me. That's why I think with my youth, I try to find creative ways for them to learn the Bible. And it's kind of cool right now because we're in the age where you can get different translations on the dime, and I take advantage of that with youth group because that's one thing about being younger. I do wish I had more. Was the word God mixed in with music? Because I'm gonna talk about that. I think I'm gonna try to talk about that later because I don't know. This is later. I can't make you promises, but the goal is to kind of marry these two in a minute. But I didn't. So, like Lelios, you're on it. That was the thing that brought me close to God. That was the thing that taught me who God was, and how I should love, and how I should treat people was gospel music. So, gospel music. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the highs, the lows, and Willie, I haven't forgot about you because we're going to talk even about quote unquote Christian rap.
Sure, let's do it.
Remember, Matt, it truthfully, yeah, we're going to do it that way because let's just keep it in the order because I feel like both these genres have had radical changes, and gospel music when I was 14 versus gospel music now. I'm gonna say some possibly controversial things, possibly some things you might I agree with. Gospel music when I was 14, I feel like gospel music was still not really on the map. Like seriously, people, the best people knew barely, and I'm gonna say barely even, was Kurt Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Kurt Franklin established Stump, but even still was establishing Stump in God's property, moving into I think it's what CD has Revolution. New Nation CD. Oh, that CD is amazing, by the way. That was my CD. I didn't mention Kurt earlier. Kurt was a part of my childhood too. I like Kurt Franklin when I was younger. Right now, we'll get there. So, but that was it. You know, while I was talking to people, they really didn't know half the artists I was listening to. First, it's not for like gospel music has kind of gotten more popular. You have more people who have crossed lanes more with secular music, quote unquote, R&B, whatever. I really like saying that word. Can I be honest with you? Because to me, music is music. But for the sake of labeling, and Job, go easy on me. For the sake of labeling, this is what I mean by that. So, you know, the match between R&B, secular music, and the gospel industry has collided more as I've gotten older. And so even a Maverick City, people know who a Maverick City is today. It's like crazy. People actually, gospel music actually having so many different flavors underneath it now, have more R&B beat, a reggae beat, Afro beats underneath it is like incredible because it's really gotten more on the map in some ways, you know. And so with that being said, what are the pro and cons with gospel music right now? What really there's so much transformation with it. And listen, and I want you guys in the comments, and I'm gonna work on this too. Let's not over spiritualize this. Let's just call it spade. Does gospel music sound similar to today's quote unquote secular music?
Okay, I'll jump in there. So I'm gonna give a Hebrew answer. I'm gonna say yes and no. Here's why. So the no part and the part that I appreciate about the gospel music as of right now is that similar to like food cuisine, that's why I correlate cuisines with genres. Like you got different cultures for different foods, for different palates, for different people. So the part that I do love is what you pointed out with Afro beats. So you got Afro beats, of course, you got trap, you got all these different genres and subgenres. But for somebody assuming that their motive is pure, they're going to put in the message, and that music is going to relate to somebody else that is into that specific genre, and that message is going to be relayed. One thing I had to learn early on is that music is just a platform. It's not the purpose. It's not the overall end all be all, right? Now that's one pro for sure. The con I see is the obvious capitalizing off of your own personal gain. It's a never ending cycle with the industry that we're in and the world that we're in, this age of information. Like a lot of us are overstimulated with so much information that is coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And I would say the con would be it's hard to sum down the motive for certain artists. You mentioned his name, so this is Let It Rip. You mentioned Kirk Franklin. And this is from a hip hop standpoint, and I'm using this as an example. A couple years back, he did a BET cipher, and he was the last person on this cipher. And he made a very controversial quote, which I do not agree with, biblically speaking. And he said, the lion and the lamb will bow down to the goat. One, that becomes very subjective, meaning you give that your own interpretation to what you say, think, and feel about what you think that's supposed to mean, as opposed to what the truth of God's standard is. So there's a lot of, what's the word? It becomes ambiguous. The lines become so skewed, and it could be, well, this is my interpretation of how I feel. Cool. You can give your interpretation how you feel, but at the end, if you're not understanding what the objective is as a believer and not just an artist, then you can just allow the lines to be however you want them to be. You know what I mean? And so it's just so many different angles you can go at this as far as music is concerned. But I just wanted to open up the can of worms and just say that. So.
I like it. I like that you did that. Real quick, joke. I know I want to let you go, but Z, we Lady Zio, thinking about her name, Lady Leo's. Yes, we'll be keeping Tamika in prayer. Definitely keep us updated. Matter of fact, we just pray right now for Tamika. Lord, we don't know what it is, but Lord, we pray real peace over her, Lord. The peace of
Jesus.
God, that's all understanding, God, is sickness in her body. Lord, we know you can heal. So, Lord, we trust in your will, God. We trust that you're able to do what you said you're going to do, Lord. We put our trust in you. Lord, we pray for even Lady Leo's, Lord, she will have peace because that's her sister. The Lord, she's not in a state of worry, God, but she has enough clarity, Father God, to hear what you're saying, God, and to comfort her sister. So we pray peace over the whole family. Lord, we thank you. We say these in Jesus' name. Amen. My bad, Joe. Go ahead. I didn't want to know that comment. It was posted at 8:00. So I was like, let me not let it get too far away from me. But go ahead.
So I'm a lot newer to specifically the gospel genre. I was introduced a handful of years ago because I grew up on women like Janis Joplin, Mary J. Blige, Aretha Franklin, music like that. And so when my mind was blown when I was shown gospel music for the first time. But I think a lot of what can be said as you look at the grand paradigm of music, specifically Christian music, all of that sort of stuff. It's funny. I hear you guys talk about gospel and the assumptions that get made about it, and my mind goes to blues. Most people think when they think of blues, most people think of Deep South blues. They might think of Texas blues, stuff like that, but there's funk, there's jam, there's northern blues, there's southern blues, there's West Coast blues. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of different flavors of it. And I think it's a weird thing when we start to talk about specifically Christian music, because you have to then turn around and ask yourself the question, what makes something Christian? Because if the idea is that it's got to be biblically accurate, or the thing that the person's saying, or the things outside of the music that the person's saying have to be biblically accurate, then y'all, 95% of Christian music just got disqualified all in one shot. So if the benchmark is biblical accuracy, then why am I going to take seriously the necessity to only listen to things that get labeled by a music company as Christian? Because even I'll take it over into the post grunge, post punk world that was the early to mid 2000s for me. You had bands out there like Evanescence, you had bands out there like Flyleaf, that were just that were tearing it up with music that you had to stop and ask yourself the question, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, Lacey Sturm, if you guys have, if for anybody watching, if you're into female vocalists and you want something that has that melds the worlds between more of a classical sound and a rock sound that's Christian bent, go look up Lacey Sturm, specifically the song The Reason. It'll make you feel some kind of way. But back then she was specifically doing stuff with Flyleaf, and I was being a part of youth group. That was like the taboo thing that you didn't like listen to, because this was through a church that was still listening. The adults were still listening to guys like Michael W. Smith and like that era of Christian music. Which spicy comment. I can't stand that era of music. It's so
it was very interesting. I was just thinking about this. I don't like you right now. Cause I was like, I don't know how it happened, but I was just like listening to like a lot of like songs from the era, Michael W. Smith, and I was just like, I don't know what the disconnect is. And I don't want to make it racial. I was so gonna make it, and I know if I was
Yeah.
talking to you, I know you would feel me. But I'm live, so I gotta be careful. But I will say, I will say this. I like
Uh,
very, very interesting choice of music.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I just want to get that was hilarious. Yeah, it was that was interesting era.
But it's but like Willie said, there's you have to be nuanced enough to say that there are pros and there are cons to the vehicle of Christian music and the platform of music to be able to um, convey different messages through different means, through different sounds, different things like that, to be able to connect and resonate with different people. You could be saying the same thing, but some music style, some direction to the music could minister to somebody that or speak to somebody in an entirely different way. And so I have to be careful for myself that I don't just come on here and slam a whole subsection of music because it is
right.
something to somebody.
That's
But
it.
I couldn't unring the bell when starting to listen to even you guys one of you guys mentioned Maverick City.
Yeah,
Um
it was me.
okay, so so today I learned that they're considered gospel apparently. Didn't know that. I
Sure.
won't I listened to some of their stuff
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh, this is so good." And then I
Yeah.
listened to other their stuff and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
But that's my experience with them. It's
And
just what
then
you just did.
and then it went over to the Rend Collective. When I first heard them, they were a little
Mm,
bluegrassy for me, but it wasn't bad. It was before I really found like Christian blues and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, this kind of scratches this itch. And then I started listening to more of their like, oh, I don't know, self-centered music where the thesis statement of the song is about the human, not about God. And I'm like, what are we doing? Wait a
I like
minute.
I like
Wait
what
a
you did
minute.
there.
And so once you go there, I seriously, anybody who listens to Christian music and really enjoys and vibes with Christian music, I warn you, there is a giant warning sign. Once you ring that bell, you cannot unring that bell. When you
Unfortunately.
start to realize the deeper notes of the music, and I don't know whose bubble I'm about to burst, but your favorite Christian music was probably made on a whiteboard in Nashville by a bunch of music directives.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Chill,
Yes.
because I gotta
Thank
talk
you.
about that in a
No,
second.
no chill. Thank you.
Apostle, go ahead. And then I'm
Yeah, I'm vibing with everything you guys are saying. I think I was sitting here trying to think. I'm like, well, how do I approach this? How do I add something to this conversation? Because I feel like you guys covered, a lot of the bases. And so I was thinking about it um, from playing music, from being a musician, and when I go to learn a song or play a song, and what I've learned is that uh, because of what's popular in Christendom, there is a slant or a bent towards um, these very simple songs, and it's not necessarily about the artistry of music anymore. It's about, are we striking the right chords to set the right atmosphere?
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
That's
And and
100%.
and that is a very there's a thin line there that, you know, that you teeter-totter, you know, like you said, somebody said about the motive, like, I don't know everybody's motive, right?
right.
I don't know if, like, well, that's what's popular, so Imma do that, or is this really, an expression of their love for God? And even like you said, what is Christian? What is what is Christian? Is Christian because they said God in it? Is it Christian because, you
Right.
know, they sprinkle Jesus in it?
Oh,
Right.
Jesus.
You know, what is Christian? And then what is gospel,
Mm,
right? You
mm.
know?
Yeah.
They
So
different. They
so
different. Come on.
because and you're so
Unfortunately,
okay,
they're
so what are we
different.
yeah, and so you're asking yourself, "Well, what are we actually," and so it's a lot more complicated, you know, than if you start thinking. If you
Right.
start really thinking and processing this, you're like, "Oh, man." So
Yes.
so how do we distinguish this? And we haven't even gotten to, you know, rap.
Oh, because
And
that's gonna be a
yeah,
monster. So real
so
quick
I'm gonna
before we switch
uh,
gears on that, but go ahead
so
real quick.
yeah, so I'm just gonna finish here with from the standpoint of playing music,
Uh,
I think what has become popular, is because it is catchy and it is simple, and
mm,
I think that is what bridges the gap, and you say, "Okay, this is very similar to what's in the world." From a musician standpoint, probably 9 out of 10, what do you call it, contemporary Christian songs are using the same chord progression as
Yes.
popular pop, you know,
Yes.
music.
Yeah.
It's
scandalous,
the
but true.
exact same chord
Yes.
progressions.
Yes.
You can go out of a Christian or a contemporary Christian song and start singing a popular pop song seamlessly
Yes.
because they're using the same chord progressions. And I don't really know what to think of that, but I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Right.
Well, I'm
Can
a
I tell a
clown.
quick story, T?
Go ahead, and then I'll
On
go
that
ahead.
on that specific note, I wanted to so some of the guys that in the local music scene call me Padre because they know I'm a pastor and they it for some of them it still blows their mind that I'm out here doing sets and music and all of that kind of stuff that is not specifically Christian. Actually, as a matter of fact, it was G Berry who inspired me after my trip to Colorado to actually start working on my first like worship track, like my first worship CD.
Yeah.
I before
That's
that,
cool.
well,
That's cool.
done nothing to do with specifically Christian music. It wasn't part of it, but we were having a conversation about chord progression and about how the same basic tenets of one song can be used and are often used throughout a whole variety of music and all of that sort of stuff. And I was telling the guys, this there's not a lot in the way of like music that makes you feel, and that making you feel to me is the deeper notes that make me believe that music is a gift from God. And they were like, yeah, okay, whatever. I was like, okay, watch this. And so I go to my guitar player and I was like, I had him play just the basic guitar, had him change the time a little bit, but that same scale that we would have utilized for one of our songs. And I started doing Amazing Grace over top of it. And
Mm,
I
Yeah.
just did this
mm.
this
Yeah.
super bluesy, Amazing Grace and all of that, and even the guys that were like, we're cool with each other because we respect each other's boundaries, knowing he does not believe me. Obviously, I believe all of that sort of stuff. Even they were like, yeah, no, that was there. There was something there I can't quite put can't quite put my finger on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It just speaks to the fact that when we understand the universal nature of music, it can help to start to strip down some of this conversation to some of its more bare bones, and you can actually kind of get to the point rather than going in circular arguments about what constitutes as music or not or whatever.
Right, and that's what I was going to say because Joe, I think you said something way earlier that I just hands down resonate with. Music is about how it makes you feel. It's like food, right? Good
Mhm.
food, you will draw people. Barriers are broken down. Conversations are had. Good music,
Yes.
same thing. And um, That's what I'm gonna say. So deal with my poor man logic real quick. And when I say that, this is me, my very broken logic on how I view these two genres. Because to me, when I grew up, it was gospel music. Okay, it was gospel music. The reason why they labeled it as gospel music was because you're sharing the good news. Especially a lot of artists I listen to: Deidre Cannon, Donnie McClurkin, Yolanda Adams, CeCe Winans. Do I have to buy me more? I said Vicky earlier. Those are like the big Israel Houghton. Those were the big gospel artists of my generation at the time that were really shipping the gospel industry. I'll even throw Tone in there, B Slade, because he even kind of did a lot of revolutionary things with the gospel. But all those things has something in common, is how they made me feel about God. Okay, so it made me feel good because I have friends who listen to who are my age, because I wasn't completely outsider, and I would be playing it, and my homie was like, "Yo, that go crazy!" Like my friend, if you don't hear Ronan, David, CC Winans Purify CD, the song Purify itself, he's like, "Bro, what is this?" I said, "I think it's the last track." It wasn't even my favorite track on that CD, but I just would play the whole CD through. He said, "What is this? This is amazing." Because even for me, because I even talk about liking gaming music, I still listen to a lot of gaming music to this day. You go on my phone, you're going to hear some gaming music. Willie knows. He's like, "What is this? This sounds interesting." It's because music is music for me, and so he liked the song because it was cadence to something that was very similar to like a lot of anime and games we were playing, and he resonated with it. But she had a message in it. He said, "So what's she talking about?" And that was we're able to have those conversations because of that. And so that's what I mean by gospel music. Christian music, though, are contemporary music. Then you get into things like urban gospel, because I feel like it's just weird. I don't know why we do, but actually I do know why. Let me not sugarcoat, because Joe said earlier, and Pastor hit into it earlier, is that there's powers at B. I'll just put it that way, that they're creating a concept of their viewer and their listener. It's just business at the end of the day. So some of that you could be like, "Oh, it's so demonic and evil," or some of that you could look at as just like, well, it's just technically practices that are normal. Everything has a market and a business, so it depends on how you want to cut that. I knew I wanted to be a gospel artist because I listened to so much gospel music. I never told anyone this, but that was my top dream before being a gamer, was being a gospel artist. And so, oh yeah, I loved gospel music so much. Like, it was, I like the riffing and the yelling and the growling. That's why I resonate with Vicky Winans. I like doing all of that. I love the softer tones. I like going in places of worship. I like being in front of people and be able to lead them into the presence of God. And so a gospel singer was just a thing for me. I was like, let's be a gospel singer, So that was my thing while I was younger. However, what you discover, and I think Joe hit it, because this is why I think I started getting more into Christian rap, is when you start reading your Bible, you can't hit the undo button. And listen, for better or for worse, it is what it is. Like, sometimes I'm praising God that I know how to read a strong concordance. I know how to exegete. I know how to, what eisegesis is, and how to avoid it. Yeah. I'm grateful for a little hermeneutics. You know what I'm saying? I'm grateful for precept by precept lines. Don't get me twisted. I know that's my peanut butter and jam. But there's sometimes I listen to a certain song I used to love, and they come on, I'm like, oh, that don't hit the way it hit. Because now it's hit my emotional box. Now my emotions are altered because of my truth. Now that's the scandalous part.
Wow.
Wow.
That's a quote right there. That is a man.
That was a bar.
Because that's the thing, is that music feels good, right? Like a lot of things, it feels good. So that becomes my quote unquote my truth. Because whatever I'm going through, that makes me feel good. But the problem is, if we're talking about gospel music, I didn't set the rules. The Bible did, first off. And you set the rules when you said this is what it was. is
Yes.
that you're talking about God. And so when you open the Bible, you're like, wait a minute. Like, I ain't trying to pick on Maverick City because I do like them, you know. And then Joe, he technically started when he talked about the me center music.
Yeah.
you,
I
you,
mean, it
you,
is.
you did it. So those things feel amazing. But if you have what we call quote unquote woke moment, you're like, well, wait a minute. That's not what the Bible says. It just changes the whole experience. And so there's songs right now that I think I was listening to this week, and I was like, it don't hit the same. It just can't hit the same. And I want it to hit the same, but I'm not the same person. And so this is what happens, right? You can, and it depends who you are. And I'm not, you know, and when I say this, yeah, actually, I'm gonna stir away from those words. Depending on how you reconcile things, is totally up to you. For me, that music still stays in my library because it's connected to experience. What God still. So it's, you know, there's some people that like, I gotta throw it completely away because I just got a new revelation and gotta go. Me, I'm like, it's not trash. But I can't fully glean from this principle and learn from it anymore. But the experience is powerful enough for me to realize that God was doing something back then. So it stays. That's just how my mind is. So when I talk about this concept with gospel music, the unfortunate thing is today's gospel music has a lot of me-centered qualities. A lot of feel-good qualities. And listen, that's not a bad thing. So let me put that out there. But if the goal, which I'm confused about, is to educate the Christian, right? Because obviously that's why I did it with the name of this genre, is to educate the Christian, to have them. Because when I was growing up, and I am going to talk about it, the reason why people started pushing more gospel music on me is because they're trying to pull me on, quote unquote, the world, right? Because secular music is the devil, Joe. Don't you know?
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for
The
saying
devil, blues. Ew, how dare you? You know,
You
like,
shouldn't have the blues. You've got Jesus.
Right.
Come on.
You know, that hippity hop, none of that jazz.
And so
Off that hippity hop.
needless to say, I bought into this a lot. But here's another fact about you that you guys about to learn about me. I also was a dancer. I love to dance. Now listen, how much I love me some Vicky Winans. As long as I got King Jesus, you know, I can't be pop locked until long as I got King Jesus. I mean, I guess I could, but it just don't. It's like it just don't fit. How much I love some CC Winans. Marcy said no. I can, you know, jig to. Mercy said no. I can bow down. I can let my hands. And so, I'm just giving you a little bit of my experience, okay? I can't, you know, and I listened to some Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson. Those were my heroes when it came to the dancing world. Sierra was a hero. Chris Brown was a hero. And so I'm still listening to their music. I told you, gospel was added. It wasn't deuces. I was still listening to these. I was in this culture of hip hop. I was in dance, so I was still keeping up. And I was like, these two just don't go. But people telling me that I can't listen to this, but my body like to move to it. It feels good. And is that really wrong? And so I was like, well, I bought into Joe. I bought into the you gotta find the alternative because you're a Christian now. And we're gonna talk about that. So here comes Lecrae. I didn't like Lecrae. I got introduced to Lecrae when I was high school. My sister Keela, she loved Lecrae. Let me say something now. I eventually started to respect Lecrae, but when I first heard him, I was just like, ain't my deal. But old school Lecrae, that dude was an animal. And truthfully, it is the same music. He just does the cadence differently. And we'll talk about that argument later because Willy, I know you're really gonna get what I'm saying with that. So I like Lecrae, but you know, I'll mess around with some Triple E. So this is where I'm in my 20s now. So now I got Christian hip hop, Christian rap. Some don't like the term in that genre, and pretty sure Willie, you have a lot to say about that. But now I got that because now that was my alternative to dance. Because I'm like, oh, these beats I could do something with, since I can't do my Janet Jackson set with Michael Jackson in the church because they're probably gonna stone me. Can't be doing that, you know what I'm saying? And rightfully so. Can't be grabbing my crouch and get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. But it gave me the a whole different world. And Christian R&B or Christian rap, hip hop, has it went through changes because it wasn't really on the map. And you kind of do gotta give it to Lecrae, Triple E, 116, Bizzle. Give me some more. Ambassador. Come on. Give me Cross movement. You gotta give those dudes their flowers because people were saying, and this was a thing, believe it or not, is you can't put rap or gospel music because if you're in any type of Christian circle or it involves slightly religion behavior lives in you, right? That's what they will say. Then you will know rap is the biggest enemy to youth. Come on, let's be real. Back in the day when we were younger, there was a lot of things that were the devil. The two top contenders that were the devil were rock music and rap.
I was gonna say if there's only one, then it is contested because heavy metal is also of the devil, don't you know?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Those three. We'll go ahead and say three now. Those were, especially me and Joe's age group. Those were the devil. Because our rap music got our kids acting all crazy, got them hanging them pants down, got them cussing and stuff.
And you know what's crazy about that is that even in my dad's generation, my mom and my dad's generation in particular, jazz was the devil.
Yeah.
He was always mentioning, he's like, man, I love jazz, but I came up in a Baptist church and they would almost pick stones and throw it at me. They just chased me out, My mom, I believe it was, so my mom was born in the 60s. She's a baby boomer and she was really heavy on like the disco. Yeah. She was Donna Summers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was another one. They're all like, oh yeah, that's that party. That's that devil, So yeah.
Nightlife. That's that nightlife. But man, I'm telling you, they pooped on rap music.
Yes.
Rock music the most. I don't know why. I feel like these two are the most abused, and I think those other genres are probably have their own drama behind them. But I'm telling you, because it's even sneakily hinted today with TikTok, which But rap music was just not. So for me, I had to get rid of that, and I'm telling you, man, these dudes minister to me in ways I can't explain. Because they were speaking word. Like I like Flame. Me and Flame have a real relationship right now. But Flame was my favorite dude, bro. Because Flame, man, the dude was just so biblical. And his production was nuts on his music. And so it made me feel like I wasn't crossing the blurring no lines. So with that being said, now let's talk about the transformation of hip hop. Where's it at right now? Because I feel like it is more popular. But I ain't gonna hold you. Controversial comment. I can't tell the difference right now. Besides you sprinkling a little bit of Jesus on it.
Yeah. So here's another controversial topic at hand is that what I genuinely wholeheartedly believe, and this is just my belief, is that a lot of the music that's coming out and produced is not hip hop.
Ooh.
That's not hip hop. There's five elements that go into hip hop. You got breakdancing, b-boy, you got MCing, you got graffiti, you got knowledge, you got all of these things, and a lot of it. And I'm not talking all of it because I don't want to make a blanket statement that goes into every single aspect, because you got some ones that are really, really still doing their thing, respectfully. But I'm talking about the industry collectively and what's being pushed by popular culture. I don't really rock with a whole lot of it. So to give you a little context for me personally, as far as the gospel music, and hip hop. Me, I did not grow up listening to gospel music.
There you
I,
go.
I personally, that was not my forte. And this is going to be another controversial topic, but we're being honest, and this is let it rip. I thought it was low key corny. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
missed that.
don't, I don't relate to this. This is Jesus, okay, hey, God, me and my relationship with God when I was a little kid, it was like Jesus was the popular kid at school, but everybody talked about, but I never knew because I thought I wasn't worthy enough. And still to this day, there's times that I wrestle with the worthiness and adequacy thing. But I'm looking at Jesus like, oh wow, he saved, he came and died on the cross, but I never personalized it that it was for me, which now empowers me to share through music my why, right?
Right.
But yeah, gospel music. I mean, sometimes even still to this day, I'll listen to gospel music. I'm like, okay, I got to take the message of what they're saying versus the vehicle of how they're producing the music and separate the two, so that way I could just get out of
That's good.
what you see what I'm saying? Like that's what I have to do because again, like Joe Day was saying, man, I relate 100%. Just because it's not my genre doesn't mean that the message isn't potent in itself to reach that specific category of people and draw them to him. You see what I'm saying? Um, as far as rap is concerned, I'm the direct opposite when it came to Lecrae. So what hit me really, really hard is I was in rehab, y'all. Dual diagnosis. And in case anybody doesn't know what that means, is that people that wrestle with drug addiction and they wrestle with mental health. I'm in this facility and I am having a crisis because I'm like, I love rap. I can't stop thinking about it. But on one hand, there's people that are demonizing me and putting me down because I love this music and this is just my way of expressing. I can't shake it. And then there's a young lady, her name, shout out to you if you're out there, man. Shout out to you, Stephanie. Man, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. But she came, she's like, Will, I'm like, what? She's like, listen to this song. I think you'll like it. She hands me the earbud. I put it in. It's the song Lecrae, I'm Praying for You.
Yeah, that's a hit.
I heard that song and it changed my perspective. I said, okay, gospel music and Christian and all that, okay, it isn't corny. Okay. Two, he's speaking and he's communicating his story in a way that relates to me personally. That's two. And then lastly, it was the emotion, the conviction, the passion. And I could tell every word that he said, not only did he mean it, but he was actually living this. Like it was multifaceted. I took all of that from that song. So, I just want to make sure I give a proper groundwork to anybody that's listening to where I was at and where I am at when it comes to music. It's a difficult it's a difficult matter at hand with the gospel and rap and hip hop and all of these things because again, for me, it's getting to a point personally. I would much rather listen to instruments and instrumentals and in hip hop beats. And I'd much rather, chime into the music that I was listening to just pray and get a concept on it. But when it comes to the gospel message, I believe it's also important to differentiate and not separate, but define what gospel music is and define what a Christian is. A Christian being somebody who does belong to Christ and has made a commitment to Christ to walk with Christ in this life. And gospel music is the music that we use for the conviction and the passion and the message of the cross. You see what I'm saying? So those two need to be clearly defined in order for us to have a clear wave. One last thing I will say concerning gospel music and rap, and a lot of people are not going to like it because a lot of us just want to either go on one extreme of, oh, it makes me feel good, or man, I heard this is the devil and we're going to just throw this away. Like both of those extremes need to be are too far left and too far right. And I'm not into politics. So let's go to the middle ground and really try to build an understanding with whatever individual may be into these specific genres. These are people, real life people that are doing this music, and they don't need to be put on a pedestal, but they're people, and we need to reason with these people who are making these songs because they are souls that God does care about too. You know what I mean?
That's good. That's good.
So so yeah, man, that's one angle, but there's so many different angles I could take with this because I could talk about this all day long. So
That's good, man.
yeah,
That was
man.
a good angle, man. Let him cook. Let him cook. All right. Who else want to jump in there? The grill's open.
And you look like you guys. I got something if you don't, but you look like you got
Yeah.
something.
So I'm liking the discussion. I like where we're going. I like what we're talking about, and I like the um distinction that you made, G Berry, with okay, being a Christian is separate from doing gospel music,
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
That those
yeah,
that we I think we speak those in like they're synonyms for each other. Like, okay, you're a Christian, you should be doing gospel music. You should be doing, and so I think about Christians that just enjoy music and are musicians and enjoy the craft and the skill of doing music and they're able to be in that arena and let the light of Christ shine in that arena. Um,
Mhm.
but then there is the struggle to, um, I guess not to try to control how that looks. You know, when you see, so I'll use a kind of a different example. Um, um, I believe Denzel Washington is a professed Christian. He goes
Mhm.
to, actually a church that was right down the street from where Tierra lived in LA, West Angeles, Church
Mhm.
of God in Christ, huge church where quite a few different celebrities, went, devout Christians. But there are scenes in movies where Denzel has to use profanity, right? There are scenes
Mhm.
in movies where there are, you know, less than Christian scenes, right?
Mhm.
But he, has found a way to separate his work from who he is in life. If you
Mhm.
interview him one on one, he wouldn't use those words.
Right.
I watched him in an interview with a Jamie Foxx, and Jamie Foxx, he says, "Man, some of your most influential scenes," and he was like, "There's this one scene that I see in all these movies where you say, 'Get your hands off me.'" And he says to Denzel, he says, "Denzel, go ahead and do that." He says, "You play me."
Smart. Yes.
Play me, and it was, like, very subtle, like, yeah, that's the movie. I'm not saying that here. So
Yeah.
if you wanna say it, you play me, and I'll grab your arm.
Okay.
You can
Yeah.
say that part. And I was like, "Wow, very interesting."
Hmm.
And so, a lot of people are walking in 2 worlds, right? And how do
Mm.
you navigate those 2 worlds, you know,
Mm.
where, you may play secular music. You may play secular events. You know, but where's your I guess the individual, where's their conviction to what it is that they're doing? And I think each person has to be allowed to have that,
A lot of
right?
something to
The
say about
person
that.
that goes all the way in can't judge the person who doesn't want to go in there. And the
Yes.
person that is
That's
is
good.
is is not wanting to go in there, you can't judge the person that's gone in there, right? Because
Yes.
I think you can't speak to what's in their heart. You can't speak to their motive. And
There you
so
go.
let's say I'm the type of person that, well, you know what? I'll play for this, but I won't play for that. The person can't say, "Oh, you're wrong for that." You can't. Why am I wrong? Because that my conviction here.
Right.
You're okay with it. You can go play.
You do it.
That particular
That's
situation.
it.
So I think I've grown to the place where I no longer haggle over that anymore. There was a time where it's like, nah, because I wouldn't do it. You impose your morality, your choices
Yes.
onto other people. And now
Yes.
I say, you know what? That person has to deal with their conscience between God. I can't be that for them. All I can say is, well, here's where I am. There's where you are, and that's been a journey for me. And I just admittedly, I struggled for a long time.
Well,
And
That's good,
that's
man.
and there's an implication that we have to avoid with the last thing that you said, that there isn't an air of, okay, I'm here and you're there, with the subtext of, you need to come to where I'm at eventually you will figure out the right way to
Right.
think.
In either
And
direction.
and that's, yeah, that goes either way. I found
Yeah.
myself, this is one of those areas where, because music is so impactful, so resonant, so emotional, so intrinsically tied to so many moments of our life, it's so easy to weaponize. It's so easy to use against people in a lot of different ways. And so this is one of those areas that's rife with opportunity for hurt people to hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
that's exactly where I was at one point. I remember I had to stop myself. I had to live process and immediately get off my perch when Aunt and I met for the first time. We met over and shared a meal, and we were talking about music, and I was not prepared for this man to say, I do not listen to anything other than Christian stuff. I was not prepared for that. And in my mind, I had an archetype. In my mind, I had a straw man. And I was ready to attack the straw man. And I've got a weird history when it comes to Christian music, because I can point back to music from youth group and stuff like that, like, for any of you that are more into, like, pop Christian rock and stuff like that, I'm old enough to remember when Jesus Freak came out.
Yeah.
Come on, Jesus
You
Freak.
know what I mean?
That was the stuff. Come on now. Great
But,
some parts, but no, at the same time, dude.
But like, it's so you had used that word corny, Willie.
Yeah.
And
Yep, let's unpack it.
I had a hard time vibing with Christian music, specifically the initial exposure that I had to Christian rap.
Mm.
I had a hard time taking it seriously because it was cupcakes and surface level.
Yeah.
It was trying to shoehorn in God over a beat that was supposed to make you sound hard.
Right.
And especially
Yes.
where I grew up,
Yes.
Ant knows what I'm talking about. When you get an air of fake tough,
Yeah.
come on, you'll
Right.
throw that thing out real quick. And
Yeah.
that's all I heard when I heard Christian rap. And then you get into the daddy Jesus of it all. This I like contemporary Christian music, where it's all daddy Jesus and sunshine and rainbows, and it's a love song to Jesus. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had a hard time taking that aspect of music seriously, because it felt like it wasn't daring to actually talk about anything. Okay, great. There's time and a place to talk about how wonderful God is in musical form, how powerful, how magnificent, all of those things. Praise God. Absolutely. There's a time and a place. And I love those moments where I am surrounded by the people of God and we are in one voice together, loving on God. But wait a second. What about the other times in our lives where we're just scratching and clawing to try and keep our head above water, and we are getting our teeth kicked in, we are getting knocked on our giant hind parts, and we are just begging somebody to talk about the real grit and reality of life? Is that Christian music?
Yes.
Yes, and I'm glad you teed that up, actually, because see, that's so since we're talking about corny, right?
Yeah.
Let's be real. Because this was the pilot for my era of gospel music. Is you got the DJ Cannon, you have the Tone, where their whole thesis statement is what you two gentlemen have been talking about is we gotta make gospel music relevant. Okay, because that's
Mm.
what it was. And a lot, it was more of them. There was some Mary was in there too, because Mary, Erica Campbell, Tina Campbell, they were all in this phase because they were reaching at the time kids my age who are 14, 16. We got to make the gospel industry more palatable because singing hymns in the church is not cutting it no more. Even to the contemporary realm, they were going through the same crisis. Okay, Michael W. Smith is cool, but how are we going to engage our youth in an urban way? Because we're dealing with urban youth who have real urban issues. They're dealing with things like rape, molestation, abuse. They're dealing with things like suicide. Suicide rate was very high. Still hasn't really came down even to this day. It was high back then. Gang violence was a riot. There were so many different things, and so these artists who are in the quote unquote gospel industry said we're going to make music around this, but talking about God. Now, here's the thing. I loved it because there were times where I could use a Did Your Hand song to minister or to dance to. I say both. There was times I can do that because the beats were just right and the message was clear. And so the industry from this point start to really take that direction. Now, even Kurt Franklin, see, I was listening to is a Hero? I think it's City Hero. And I was just really amazed because when something is happening in your time, I don't think you realize how potent and good it is. And I was just reading the notes for the album before as I was listening to it, and the album got rendered his first Grammy. It really was rendered his first Grammys because songs like "Imagine Me" and "Shout." "Shout" was a song that I was not ready for. It talked about his life, how he dealt with porn and molestation, sister being abused, being abandoned. This is why a lot of people at the time gravitated towards Kurt Franklin and his peers because they were talking about things like this. Like I said, this is my little corner of music. I'm pretty sure there's artists in your guys' corner that were doing the same thing. But the overall point I'm making is we got the thought process, and it seemed like the motive that was speaking louder than what people's individual motive was, is we got to take gospel music out of a place of being lame and corny and make it relevant. Same problem that the church is having today. We got make the church less relevant and make them more relevant, so that way it can speak to a bigger audience. Now, here's the kicker, right? A part of that's powerful. Like I resonate with Joe. Some of the guys in the comments were saying preach because, like, yeah, Joe's right. We need music that speaks to that. I love Jesus. I love Jesus is a love song. That's actually a song. I love that. But I need to know when I'm a Christian and my heart is broken. Someone broke my heart. What does God feel about this? I need to know if someone got killed or murdered and I'm going through abuse, is he the same God in that musical form?
Yes.
Because believe it or not, music is a big influence in our world.
Yes.
And I say world, not just Americans in our world. Music has always been a powerful influence. It's a powerful communicator. It's a powerful tool, and is a lot of times how people cope. There's music used for therapy, musical therapy that help people with heart diseases and mental health issues. And musical therapy has brought people out to a better breakthrough and at least a more functional way of life. So music has waves in power. Music personally, when my anxiety helps me to this day. Music, we're talking about we're crossing the streams a little bit, but they're talking about fitness, and someone like, I can't even touch a weight while I'm music. Some people like, well, I'm cool without it. And there's no shame to that either. But there's an influence of music. Music gives you that push. When you're tired and you got to push that way, it gives you something about the feeling that gives you that ability to push through. Was also a life. A right song at the right moment can push you into to avenues of breakthrough. However, a wrong song at the wrong moment can spur spurs of anger and bitterness, possibly to abuse. That's why I do think music has the power over our youth today, and it does cause them to do things. Why? Because it's a feeling thing. If you feel good about something, you gonna do it. I just don't like how we try to like sugarcoat that, and that's my thing. I'm like, let's not sugarcoat it. Okay,
Correct.
music is about feeling first, usually for people.
Yeah.
Okay, so they feel something that resonates. Half the time I ask my niece, I said, what are they even talking about? Oh, I don't know. They sound good because she felt it.
Right?
Okay, now watch this. Now, when she starts feeling it, then she starts listening.
Mm.
Down to the booty braids.
Wow.
Down to the booty braids. So,
Oh,
because it's like I felt it first, and then I start listening to it, and now I do it. Because now it starts to form an ideal in my head. And that is the curse and the blessing behind music for any genre. That's not just limited to gospel. There are some gospel music that made me more bitter as a Christian than any Janet Jackson song could have ever done. Okay, now I'm being scandalous. Let me be real. Long as I got King Jesus, had me bitter with people for years. And shout out to Vicky Wines, I love you. So one of my one of my songs, because to me the core of the song is, if no one else got you, Jesus got you. I think that is a principle we go on to. But for someone who's young, listen to that, who's bitter, who's been abused by the world, as long as I got King Jesus, I don't need no one else. I don't need no mother, doctor, lawyer, father, teacher. That was a PowerPoint of the song. I don't need that because I've been abused. And so now music is shaping my literal walk. Walk equals conduct. How I handle myself. In the Bible, that's what it means to walk. Your conduct, how you live. And so it's powerful. And that's my thing with gospel music today, is the responsibility of it all. Yes, continue to make music that make you feel good. I have an artist right here on live, and Willy, his music makes me feel all of that. And because I know Willy, in a sense, it's kind of like a diary. You know, I talk to Willy quite often. There's certain songs I'm like, I got a better peek in his mind. And because I know where he was at writing this song, as much as it hits for him as he created, it hits just as hard for me because I have my experience there too. I have a double experience. His experience of knowing him and the experience of living it myself. That's incredible. But see, that's a responsibility. Yes. And I'm having a problem because, I know you're Deacon Joe. And because one last thing, watching, I told you guys I was watching Show Kingdom, and I will reportedly say, I almost will say shamefully so. I have we have devoured the show. We finished 2 seasons. It's a show produced by Kurt Franklin. Okay. Okay. And okay. Because you're like, what's that have to do with music? Because I'm about to show you. Because it to me, it's Kurt Franklin's response to an Empire. If you guys don't know what Empire is, Empire was a very popular show on Fox. That was actually, I ain't gonna lie, it was one of my favorite shows. That was really well done show, but it really evolved around music. And so the gimmick of both these shows is to tie music with drama, right? And that's what made Empire amazing, is you are getting a lot of dramaful scenes, but you're getting good music at the same time. Empire bridged a lot of paths for a lot of actors and musical artists at that time. And so that's what Kurt Franklin is trying to do with Kingdom. And it's matter of fact, one of the main actors from Empire is the main actor in this show. Which is crazy. I forgot old girl's name. She's she played Tiana in Empire, but now she's playing the girl Rebel in this show. And so Rebel is the gospel artist who was a stripper trying to become now a gospel artist. And anything you think about the show is in there. You do have some cuss and sex, a little bit cringy, because you could tell there's certain things that are just being forced to kind of make it edgy. Because that's the thing, when you're a Christian, I gotta make it edgy. Because if I go in these realms, I gotta make it edgy, let you know that we can talk about Jesus, but be edgy too. It just comes off force. And I don't know if you know what that is, what I'm talking about. But to me, it's kind of cringy, because I'm like, you don't have to do that like that. Just I don't know, be normal. But it has some of that in there. But the music is a selling point too. But the problem with the music is, I'm like, man, I don't feel nothing. That's one. And this is subjective. 2, I feel like on a mental level when it comes to my walk, what is different for me listening to Sexy Red in this album?
Uh-oh.
Okay, now I know that totally might mess with some people, because for me they're the same thing. Like, he has a song about, I don't know how he did this, but it's pretty much talking about her body and her body being the place of worship, but it's very sexual, very cringy. It's really weird. Willie, I'll send to you guys later. Maybe if I can find it, I'll send to you guys in the message. But I'm like, only thing she did was sprinkle Jesus on it, but the innuendos about sex and things like that, I'm like, I can go listen to some Sexy Red.
Dang.
Now you would say Sexy Red crazy. That crazy though, right? But I mean, she talked about the same thing. You just try to, brush it up and make it more palatable. And so, well, no, this is gospel. That's my problem with the industry today. And that's what I was thinking about when I was talking to you guys about this. Is I'm like Joe, in a sense. Cool, whatever. If that appeals to you, fine. But let's not play ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's not say, oh yeah, what I'm doing is for God. What you're doing is not for God. And that's where this ended up getting, because I feel like the gospel industry is very mirror of the church. Is we gotta be relevant. You got gospel superstars doing crazy stuff.
Superstars, yeah, that's
doing stuff that it says we're talking about Larry Rip, which is a problem. Is you got superstars grinding and going crazy on camera, and they gonna get mad. So, well, you're a gospel artist. Well, don't be saying I'm a gospel artist, but you said that yourself. You said that you take God and that he's holy and he's this to you, and then now with someone because you want to be a superstar now you mad. Don't play yourself. If you want your music to just be music, to let it be music, but don't. And I know this might be like, I might be coming at like harsh, but that's my thing with this, because I'm a white black person. Sometimes I am. I try to let gray live there, but the core of me is still white and black. Be who you say you're gonna be. I'll respect, and who's like, I respect the Charlie Wilson. Because Uncle Charlie, he loved the Lord. He kind of like what we talked about with Denzel, what Pastor talking about Denzel. But Uncle Charlie still make R&B. But he talk about, I respect him more than I respect some of these gospel artists who try to placate.
I agree.
And then and that's my thing, is let's be mature about our music taste. Let's be mature about music, period. If it speaks to you, you feel like on a biblical basis there's certain things you can't deal with, fine, cool. Me personally, my library is 9% gospel music. I'm gonna go ahead and expose myself right now. 9%. 10%, you're gonna find some R&B, because those songs spoke to me. Keyword, spoke to me. I'm sorry, I'm not a really raunchy type of music person. And that's just not me being judgmental. It's just like, that's just weird. That's me. Wow, God. I'm like, I don't think you need to air out your whole sexual bedroom on the tape. I don't want to hear that. That's between you and that person, sir or ma'am. I want to mind my business. I don't want to hear about that. But hey, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and knock yourself out. I just want to be listening to it. I got some comments. Let's get to work. And I know I dropped a lot in there, so I see a lot of process going on. Joe, you were processing on something earlier. I want to hear about it. But let's start off with Tim. Dad, I meant to say good morning. Tim is my father. I probably should say on stream, be professional, protect his
morning,
whatever not. But good luck with that. Good morning, Tim. That's weird for me to say. That's why it bothers me. But good morning, sir. How you doing? I saw it way earlier. Music sets the atmosphere for how we interpret the world around us. It's interesting that every movie you watch has a soundtrack. Absolutely. A movie without a soundtrack would be crazy. So absolutely. Not all early music is bad. And this is Charmer. Good morning, sir. Not all gospel music is good for the spirit. This man coming in cooking. Having a spiritual discernment is key. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I for me, we might, this where some of us might differ on, that's how I feel a lot of time. No, worldly music. There's some songs that I think, Joe, you were talking about that I was like, from artists, I'm like, yeah, they got you to think.
Yeah.
You know, they got you to really slow down. You don't say that's because it's not a gospel song, that's of the devil. Like, come on, bro, chill all that. You know, but there's been some gospel songs. I'm like, man, with some spiritual discernment, I'm like, that was just not good.
That wasn't it.
That wasn't good for me. That's not going to cause me to love God, my brother, more. If anything, it's going to cause me to separate more from the church. Okay, so keep the comments coming. I want to hear from you guys because I feel like we've been going on here on this panel. I want to hear more from the chat, but turn it back to us because I said a lot. There's probably like a lot of colorful language in my words. And so let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this.
So I hear you mention, you know, the 90%, 10% thing and all of that sort of stuff. And I think about that. And if pressed, those numbers would look like if you were trying to, because if you're going to say that, then you've got to put some kind of parameter on it. And most of the time, the parameter on it is the genre that it is, or that it's classified as. If that's the barometer for how much Christian music that I listen to, you could probably flip that. Maybe the numbers would be a little bit higher than 10% if we flipped it, but it wouldn't be like even close to 50%, because that genre specific stuff. Now, there are bands that I listen to that all they are doing from A to Z is singing a worship song. That they don't try to be anything more than that. It's something that you may hear at a church service who purchased the rights to be able to play it at their service. You know what I mean? Like that kind of music. Okay, there is room in the conversation for that kind of music. But if we are going outside of the realms of just straight, I am singing a worship song, but still trying to stay within the realms of Christian music, that's where the numbers start to go wild for me. And you guys were talking about the music, how music makes you feel versus like that, like feeling first and then listening. There is some music that so my older sister is also a musician, and we grew up on largely the same music, some ebbs and flows there, but there are so many songs that were the soundtrack to our youth that we sit back and listen to now when we're like, yeah, those lyrics don't really hit. And in some ways, I'm a stereotype, guys. I'm from Philly, and you catch me working out, and there's usually the Rocky soundtrack playing, and like just
come on, Rocky,
Eye the Tiger, Hearts on Fire, the whole nine yards. And I had a Survivor CD far younger than most people.
Sorry,
but
that was my stuff.
But there are music, there are pieces of music, there are certain artists, there are certain, it's not a whole genre, it's more down to specific music that, you know, they have fallen off because I don't resonate with that anymore. Or, you know, like when I was doing MMA, I was a very angry dude. When I was, you know, there's some of us from Philly would argue that you're never not about, once you learn how to be a boxer, you're a boxer for life. Kind of like being a chef. Once you're a chef, you're a chef for life. Doesn't matter if you're practicing in the restaurant.
Sure.
But when I was actively fighting, I was a much different dude. I was real angry. I hated the world, and I was looking for a legal outlet for all that. And so in training camp, there was a singular focus. I was going in, 2 men may enter, only 1 may leave. And the music that I listened to reflected that.
Yeah.
And I found myself in a post-Jesus world after my come to Jesus moment, like I'm aware of of my emotional state more than any other part of my life. I vibe with Ecclesiastes at more now than any part of my life, but I'm not angry like that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have that beast in me anymore.
Yeah.
That's why when people ask me, could you ever fight again? No, because I don't know how to fight without being just pissed off at everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that so that barometer has shifted for me over the course of time. And that's why, I used to be like UT, where a lot of this stuff was black and white. A lot of this stuff was, man, if you claim to be a Christian artist and you're out here saying anything that's contradictory to the scriptures, then you are wrong. Actually, one of the artists that really changed the way that and expanded the way that I thought about that was NF.
I love it.
When I was first introduced to NF, it was under the guise of him being a Christian artist. I have no idea how he professes or whatever, or what he would classify himself as now. His last CD was more of like a mental health diary rather than like a Christian CD or like a music from a Christian artist.
Right.
But I don't hear anything in the music that he's trying to be something that he's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that it reworks. The more you get exposed and the more you mature spiritually and all of that kind of stuff, for me, it changed the severity in which I looked at things. There's a singer, Tom Petty. Tom Petty is I because of the era that he came up in, surrounded by guys like Bob Dylan. He's so underrated as a musician and as a songwriter. He wrote a lot of music that you know and love from that generation of music. He wrote a lot of those lyrics for a lot of famous songs. And there's this song, Don't Back Down, that just, to me, that's a Christian song.
There you go.
When you think about this for a second, What's the definition of victory? Getting up one more time than you've been knocked down. Now, at the risk of sounding like a bad Rocky Balboa speech, that's also from the scriptures. That's also
no. You teach it. You cook, boy. Let him cook.
But because this same dude wrote songs like Last Dance with Mary Jane, Free Falling, Hotel California.
Wow.
Come on, man.
This dude then turns around and says, you can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down.
I won't.
I dare
Come on.
Christians to stand with that level of confidence. Stand with that level of confidence. Yeah, you can knock my teeth down my throat, but I'm not going to stop getting up. And that, to me, when you understand that full paradigm, it no longer becomes about what the genre is, about what a person claims to be. Now, the unwritten thing, and I think, Willy, you said this, that I think we need to be aware of, is if you are out here calling yourself a worship artist,
right? Yes.
The conversation has changed.
Right? Thank you.
Because that, to me, and part of why, for me, I do not, people ask, oh, that's an easy layup, right? You're a pastor and you're a musician, so you're a Christian musician. Oh, you're a pastor and you're a business owner, so you're a Christian business owner. No, I'm a Christian who does music, and I'm a Christian who owns a business. Might seem like I'm splitting hairs, but I don't carry that. I purposefully do not carry the weight of being a Christian artist, nor do I necessarily think that I need to try to shoehorn God into capitalism, because capitalism is a worldly concept, not a biblical concept.
You're right.
That's its own conversation.
You're right.
but Willie, I'm curious. A,
Mhm.
would you classify yourself as a Christian artist? And the second half of that depends on how you answer the first. Unpack what you either coming to grips with the weight and responsibility of calling yourself a Christian artist, or why you stay away from that label if you do.
Yes, because
Yeah,
I was wanting to get to that. Jeremiah,
yeah.
we see you. Willie, go ahead and answer, and I'm gonna circle back to that comment.
So Christian artists, no. Gospel artists, yes,
Okay.
yes,
Oh,
because that's who I am.
break it down, sir.
Like
Hold on.
I'm a yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a Christian, yes. That's just who I am. That just is a reflection of my personal, intimate relationship with Christ. I don't get caught up in the Christian, the non-Christian, because we lose sight and we blur the lines too much. Lecrae, when that time did come, he said, "I'm not a Christian artist. I'm an artist who's Christian." Well, he's still Christian, so let's just unify and pray for him and keep it moving. Like we're just getting too caught up in that. Gospel artist, correct. Because in my identity and who I am, I'm going to proclaim the gospel no matter what I do, even if it's not me even saying words, if me just cooking a meal and I'm serving this person and going beyond my way because God went beyond his way when he died for me. You see what I'm saying? So that's just who I am. So yeah, I'm a gospel artist in whatever aspect and facet. And even if the name of Jesus isn't even mentioned in that song, the heartbeat and the weight behind the gospel message is going to be projected in that specific song. Even in a shameless plug, I got a album out called Losing Myself, and one of the songs is In My Head.
Yep.
You know, it's not necessarily talking about, well, Jesus did this and Jesus did that. But like what was said earlier, and just circling back, people need to realize that God cares about every aspect of our lives. Like when we get off of this live stream, we are still living life. Life doesn't stop and start with social media. Life doesn't start and stop when you're on Snapchat, and like I just that's not real life. This is just an extension and just a piece and a puzzle piece of part of the daily walk in the life, right? So like, nah, man, like we need to see that mental health really is a thing. We need to see that abuse is sinful. Yes, if you're listening to me, abuse is sinful. That's not a good thing by any means, and it's not to be pacified or to be swept under the rug. Uh, I wanted just to segue real quick. TC, you said something that really stirred me up and it was really good. Talking about people that have these platforms, and there's a specific comedian. I'm not gonna mention his name, but he mentioned he mentioned this part where he was talking about a woman, and they're dressed very interesting. They're dressed very provocative, to say the very least. And this man approaches her, and she's like, "Oh, why are you doing?" "Because I'm dressed this way." And he's like, "I can understand, ladies, why you say that, but that's confusing. Imagine me wearing a police outfit and somebody comes up to me and there's an accident and there's an issue at hand and you approach me and I'm looking at you like, hey, just because I'm dressed this way." The reason why I'm using this example is because a lot of times we are in a place and we're in a position and we're in a predicament where we have the influence, we have the platform, there's people that look up to us. There is a responsibility that we have, but yet we brush it off and we say things like, well, I'm not a role model. Well, hey, here's the scandalous part: musician, gospel artist, Christian rapper, whatever you identify as. And this goes for even secular artists as well. Artists, period. If you have a platform, you have a responsibility. That is a non-negotiable, and there needs to be some kind of accountability and responsibility for you to be held to that, because there's people looking up to you, whether you like it or not. You see what I'm saying? So, I just wanted to highlight that part too, because it's easy to just, well, hey, not my fault. Well, there's a little 5-year-old kid, and if you jump off of the stage, that kid could jump off and possibly hurt themselves. Like, that's something to really think about too.
Them cook, man. They cooking up in here, man. It's a throw down. There's ribs and steak, chicken, and they cooking up in here. Okay, listen.
Haters.
Uh, Jeremiah, what's going on in gospel music now? It's changed a lot. It's not like what it used to be. I will go ahead and concur to that. I'm sorry. I will. It's not how it used to be when I was a kid, when we were kids. I do like the point Pastor Anthony was talking about. Yes. And you have to probably remember what that point was because we even dropped so
Yeah,
many
that was
points
a while ago,
probably a
right?
while ago. People saying they loving this. Yeah, Lewis is saying he's loving this. Charmer Willie G Berry is one of my favorite to listen
My,
to. When I just
my
want to,
God.
we just want if you want to know. Yeah, I love G Berry. I'm not saying it because he's a friend either. And we made music together, wink, wink, him. But I'm saying it because I actually do like his music. You know, before he was a friend, I heard his music, and as a friend, I appreciate his music more. And you got anything before I ask a
I
final
think,
comment?
yeah, I'll just say this. I think, people have to stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I think at the end of the day, you have to own who you are, you know, and, learning to allow people, to be who they are. Like you said, Willie, okay, I don't call myself a Christian rapper, but I call myself a gospel artist. Well, somebody will say, "Well, da, 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 da." Hey, they can argue all they want, right?
Right.
Yep.
But you have to own who you are.
Right.
One of the things that happened to me when I really rededicated and started, coming back and following the Lord and going back to church is that one of the things I did was um, I started off in the choir at the church I was at, and then it kinda hit me that I'm like, "You know what? I'm conflicted about this."
Mm,
Conflicted
mm,
about, singing, the music and because this kind of backstory, when I was doing my music, my music was very, very sexual, very secular, very, intense. People say, "Oh, well, R&B is just love music." Well, mm, uh, we can argue about that if you want. There's some song there's some
Stop the
songs
cap.
that are about, about love, but most songs are about sex, and we're calling sex love, you
come
know,
on.
and
Mm,
that was the vein that I was in. I was in that vein, with the, um, take your clothes off, that kind of stuff type music. And so when I started, you know, walking with the Lord again and I took some time away from music. I was like, you know what? I gotta, kind of examine what's going on with me, you know,
Mm,
and that's what made me personally feel like, for me, that genre is not just listening for me. Other people can just listen to it.
right.
And I had to learn that they could just listen to it. When I listen to it, the images that come into my mind, the things, I was like, I don't want that. I don't need that for me, right? And so, because me and my wife disagreed on that. My wife could, listen to stuff and I just tune it out. Like I don't want to hear, you know, uh, you know, we can have a threesome or did or did. I was
Whoa.
like, you're saying that that's just a beat, that's just a song. For me, I can't do it because it does it affects the imagery in my mind,
Right.
and so I had to, for me, I made a hard shift away. Joe was talking about when we had that conversation. When I was out there. And I was like, "Yeah, unashamedly, people struggle with this, but I don't really listen." From time to time in passing, right? Like at the game,
Mm.
anybody that's ever gone to they're playing
yeah.
the music, like, "Okay, we're having fun,
Yeah.
it's a good time," but you're not gonna see me have that in the car when I'm driving. You're not
Right.
Come on.
I'm
Come
not
on.
gonna, be at the house just playing it,
Good example. Yeah.
it's something that happens in passing.
Yeah.
Am I like, "Oh, I gotta leave the stadium because they're playing," right? You know, I'm not, that, rigid. But at the same time, for me, my headspace, my personal space inside my head, I choose, I'm very strategic in what I let into my mind because I know me. You know,
Mm.
Other people it doesn't mean anything to. They're listening to it. It doesn't even. And so, what did Paul say? Paul said, that for one person, it's an issue. Another person, it's not an issue.
Right.
Who am I to say, "Oh, that's gonna"? I don't know if that's gonna do anything to you, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't but I do have the right to choose if I'm going to partake or not, and just letting people have that, letting people have that and stressing that when it comes down to music because, because I would be a hypocrite, right? If I said, "Oh, don't, you could never listen to this, you never listen to that." Because being a musician, I'll play a chord and I'm like, "You know where this chord came from."
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is in another song.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can't play anything that's not in another song, right?
True.
And so as a musician, it's like, uh, it's kinda hypocritical to say it's all bad. I think, what Chalmers said it. Not
Yeah.
all, secular music is bad and all quote unquote gospel music is good, right?
Right.
There's a thin line where it's music. you know, and it's what we're doing with it. It's how we're interpreting it because music even is itself a language in a lot of ways. Music
Uh-oh.
is
Come
a
on.
language,
Come on.
and so what are you communicating with that language,
Yeah.
of music? And so I've learned to
Yes.
appreciate music more on the level of the artistry of it, and so I can appreciate, what Phil Collins did with I can feel it coming in the air at
Yeah.
night.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that song.
And I can appreciate that. I'm not gonna be riding around in my car, but when I hear it, I'm like, "Man, that's deep. That's a deep."
Yes.
That's it. The way he put those chords together,
That's
I'm
not
like,
so
"Man,
crazy.
it almost has a spiritual sense to it,"
Yeah.
when you
Yes.
hear the chord progression. I'm like and so from an artist standpoint, I can appreciate music and I don't have to, demonize this or demonize that. Now some stuff, the lyrics are just crazy, right? And
Right.
you know, that's one thing. But, I love the conversation and I love the freedom that we all can share when it comes down to enjoying or expressing our likes and dislikes because I'm gonna tell you this, I love music. I really do
Right.
love music and it's very wide range of music that I enjoy. Um, and so I think we I think we have to be able to exist there because music ain't going nowhere.
Right.
Man, so good. Tim Mays, he says, Amen. Joe, it's all about the heart posture of an artist, not the song style or even the genre. Worship is a heart posture, not just the type of music. I think he was saying that when you were talking about, the genre of songs and how it makes you feel and how it could speak. Yes, absolutely. Listen, guys, if you'll take anything that we're saying today, we're laying down, is there is a freedom in music. Music, like pastors eloquently said, like we all said, in powerful ways, is a way of communication. Music is things that have helped us out in hard times. Music has taught us, for some, I'll be real, they say this line a lot, Willie, music raised me. For some of us, that might actually be true.
And
You
I did
know,
look up those lyrics for that Tom Petty and man, how do we tell I mean,
right.
this
Mm.
come on, this is super encouraging, it's super, it's
Wow.
like, wow. I
Right.
mean, it feels like he's talking to a Christian, but I think he's just talking to people in
Yeah.
general, and we all can share, this story. And so I was reading the lyrics, I was like, "Man, these lyrics are powerful."
And that's what I'm saying. Music. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's for me, the beauty of music comes in the same way that the beauty of the truth of relationship with God comes. And by that I mean, you guys have heard me use the playground analogy before, and if you never have, then what I want you guys to do is I want you to envision a playground. You are standing at the playground now. On there's a fence around the playground, and on the other side of the fence there's a highway and there's street. You don't go past the the parameters of the playground. But then turn around for a second and take a look at the entirety of the playground. Now, what if instead of being so fixated about not going over that fence and not going too far, instead you were focused on the fact that God says to us, go play. Just go
Mm.
play. You've got the playground in front of you. Go fall on your face, skin your knees, get back up, do it again. Like that, you get to experience life and a different posture when you understand that part of the Christian experience is the embodied life. Instead of trying to level up as a Christian, instead of trying to be a super apostle, instead of trying to be this superhero-esque figure within Christendom, instead take a second and realize that I get to live an experience fully and completely immersed in the presence and relationship with God. And that idea of music, when you can take it in, sure, yeah, there's nonsense. There's always nonsense. There's nonsense in Christian music. There's nonsense in non-Christian music, whatever. But when you can look through the lens of the embodied life, even a song like that from an artist that does not claim in any way, shape, or form to be a Christian artist, you can still take the truth in that and say, this is good. Does every song end up like that? No. But that's the beauty of being able to approach life like that, but also embrace the discerning spirit of God that we are indwelt with.
Yes. Yes. That's good.
Man, listen, we land this plane, but questions, comments, and concern. I'll give you a couple seconds while we go through our rhetoric. I'm just playing rhetoric, but we go through our thing of sharing where you can find us. So questions, comments, concern, make sure you type them. You gotta be quick, okay? Don't be slacking. You gotta pick up your fingers a little bit. Listen, G-Bear, I'm gonna start off with you. Tell the people where they can find your music, man. We want to know where we can find you, and tell us where else they can find you social media wise.
Yeah. So my name is Willie G Berry. That's Willie G-Berry. You can find me on Amazon, iTunes, iHeartRadio. Literally, I'm everywhere like air. All you got to do, I have a new album out. It's called Losing Myself. I have a single called Word, Repent, The Way. Yeah, you can find me on all digital streaming platforms. And as far as social media is concerned, you can find me on Instagram. That's Willie G Berry, all one word, all one name. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on here on Facebook, or yeah, like I said, I'm everywhere like air. I'm approachable, and yeah, praise God.
Yeah. Man, make sure you guys are tuned into the network, because we are always having things going on here throughout the week. I know we have streams literally of all kind between these two gentlemen. For me, my bottom right and my top right, just to kind of give them a clarify where they can get the access to these incredible streams. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Joe and Anthony. Joe, I know you got something going on Friday. Can you tell them about what that is about and where they can find it and what time that is?
Yeah, so every Friday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, I'll let you do the math from there. We are walking our way through the Old Testament with Kingdom on the Road, looking to demystify the Old Testament. We just started Numbers. And so we have greatly picked up the pace, but we are there long form, usually 2.5 hours, give or take, every Friday morning. Also have my show Buddy Walk with Jesus that comes out every Wednesday. On there, we're kind of marrying the worlds of walking through the book of Acts while also discussing current topics, on the idea that it was always baked into the thesis statement of the church that there should be a variety of different expressions of worship.
And
Yeah, for me, the same. Normally, I'm on Kingdom on the Road on Fridays. We go verse by verse, line by line. We break it all the way down. Man, I call it the Bible bus, and so you better get on, because we're going from we're going from one stop to the next stop, and I really enjoy it. So if you are a person that's an avid Bible studier and you want to, go through the Bible, maybe you're not a fan of preaching per se, but what we do is we just read through, explain, unpack. We'll even unpack, the Hebrew or the Greek or whatever is there, and then read through. And so in 2 hours we can do two, three. There's times where we done 4 chapters, of heavy lifting, that you can go back and pick apart and stop and pause and read through. And then I have different stuff going on. Monday Motivation with Kavan Smith. We do that on Mondays, pretty much every Monday, and it's just basically a recapping of our past week or whatever we find as a topic that will encourage or motivate people on Mondays. Just started something with a friend of mine, Alex Jimenez. He's a pastor at City of God, and we've been doing a prayer, discovering prayer in the Bible. So we've been examining prayers from the Bible. We looked at Nehemiah and we broke down his prayer. We just finished with Daniel and his prayer. I don't know where we're going next. We might go to Jesus' prayer in John 17, or we might go to David's prayer in Psalms 51. And so we're looking at specific fully unpacked prayers and examining, the components of prayer, what the context was around that prayer and why they were praying and all those kind of stuff. And so it got a lot going on. And then of course, go to my YouTube, type in Anthony Wilson prayer, and I will pop up and you can connect there. And then, of course, I'm like the rest of the guys on Facebook and all the other platforms.
Yes, 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 y'all. Okay, so yeah, you can find me pretty much anywhere, Pastor TC. I am now pretty much everywhere, but I'll tell you where you really find me the most, where I interact the most. You can find me on YouTube. As simply as Pastor TC. I got now praying videos. I do praying content. I do content like this where I'm challenging you to grow in your personal walk with God, with gaming. I am a gamer. So you're going to get that with some gaming content. We're going through a lot of various topics, a lot of powerful stuff going on. And I am still trying to work out my live stream schedule like these guys. I am right now, I'm just focusing on my content creation, is really getting you guys the best quality stuff possible. I'm still working out something for live streams. With that being said, you could always find us here at Let It Rip every Saturday, 7:30 MST my time. And I think you said, what time is yours? Was
9:30.
9:30 Eastern time for Let It Rip, so that way you never miss a live stream. Y'all see how we get down here. These men were cooking, bro. I got a plate with me that I'm taking off. Okay, so these brothers be cooking. Joe, go ahead and land the plane for us.
All right, guys, thank you all for joining us for another edition of Let It Rip. Guys, as you are watching this back, feel free to go ahead and drop a comment. We still pay attention to the comment section even after we are off the air. But guys, until next time, we want you to remember 2 very important things: that you are prayed for and you are loved deeply. All right, peace, y'all.